Hey, what's up, Culture Drop? Galen. Doing something a little bit different here. This is kind of just an impromptu conversation. Jay and I are here filming stuff and started talking about this, and I was like, I actually want to say this. Like, let's just record this. And what I want to say in terms of like the way that I see it over this last year and a half, all of this disruption with COVID and working from home and just like all of these changes in every industry that has human employees, I work with teams around culture and establishing culture. And a lot of that is just like elevating employee experience, right? And for every single person that works in the organization to be intentional about what does it mean to be here? How do we treat each other? And the teams, the organizations that like really prioritize that work, that have those things in place, that have intentional culture, that elevate employee experience, that are like, our people matter to us, and we do have an intentional culture, they thrived this last year. And companies that didn't struggled, had so much challenge and so much struggle as organizations because when it comes to how people feel about their jobs and just feeling supported, it's like companies who are like, yes, of course, will be totally flexible around like people's circumstances and childcare and like and just being so flexible and to be like, what do you need? And like a lot of that is also financial stuff. It's like companies like foregoing bonuses to executives and like helping people out. And like just there's so many different ways that companies who are intentional about culture, work environment, how do we treat each other, that did so well this year. It doesn't mean that it wasn't challenging for them, but the companies that I talked to, and I talked to hundreds of different teams and companies and people and employees, and it's like the companies who don't elevate those things, right? They really struggled. And part of that is that people individually, right? Your employees feeling unsupported. And this is a really challenging year. But if you have a company who you're like, that company is going to make decisions for themselves only, and I am an afterthought, not important. It's just those people felt, I think, had so much more harder of a time with this. And the reality about culture in this kind of work is that when everything is going great and well, yes, a really intentional, highly engaged culture of people is important, right? It's like performance, we do well, but this is when it's needed, right? When we have times of great change or great disruption and things are just chaotic or they're challenging, that's when culture matters. When people are like, they feel like they belong to something, they feel like the people around them and their company have their back, they feel like they belong and like that they're important and that they're valued. Because when we have times of challenge or great change, it's like, that's when we sort of feel like, okay, we can get through this together, right? We're in this together, as opposed to like every person for themselves, like take care of yourself, like who cares? And like, I think that the perfect kind of analogy here is that like during a fire, when a fire breaks out, that's not when you're like, maybe we should get a fire extinguisher. Like maybe we should set up fire extinguishers around our house. Like you need those things before a fire happens. And like, that's the importance of culture. It's one dynamic, one element of culture is that it's a lifeboat. In times of like great change or chaos, is like having that in place already allows companies and teams to move through those areas and people feel supported. They feel like they move in together and they like support, they come together. Like we know who we are, we're a team, we feel together, as opposed to, just lackluster culture and this feeling of people sort of like everybody for themselves. And it's not that companies necessarily intend to make people feel like that, right? But it's like, when you do the work as an organization, as a team, as a leader, as a leadership team, to say, we know who we are, we know how we operate together, and like prioritizing employee experience and what it feels like to be here, and like in all of these different ways, we make people feel valued and cared for and respected. It's like, this just showcased how important culture is to me. From my perspective, and like all the things that I see, is that it's something you need to have in place, because when times are great, having a great culture just like makes them more exceptional. But when times are really, really, really tough, when you have a really tight crew and people feel like connected and supported and like just dialed into one another, it makes all the difference in the world. And I have so many examples this year of stories like that. So I don't know, just another case for like why it's important to prioritize culture and start having conversations, right, strategically around culture and people and what does it feel like to work here? How do we make people feel valued? Because the time that you need it, if you don't prepare, if you don't have those things in place, when you need it the most, like you will suffer the most. And that's just the reality of it. But yeah, so I don't know, just an encouraging thing. I think companies like always prioritize that. If that's something you haven't done, if you haven't had real conversations around like culture and work environments and what that looks like, it's like elevate that, because this certainly showcased like the need for that in teams. So that's all. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I hope, I don't know, I love being able to have these conversations and help teams and like companies that are willing, employees that are willing, and leaders that are willing, that want to be better for each other, create better teams. It's like, it is an honor to be able to contribute to that. So that's all. I love you guys. Thanks for watching and tuning in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have our weekly email list, the Culture Drop. You can subscribe to that and get these emails right in your inbox. Follow our social media channels. Put out a lot of free content around being more awesome and building great teams.